Michael is a business development manager from AWS, who has played an increasingly important role in the development of the space ecosystem. And Reza comes from the Exim Bank, the Export-Import Bank of the United States. So we are all involved with the space startup ecosystem in many ways, supporting space companies at different stages. And that's the whole idea, because as we know, in paraphrasing the old proverb, it takes a village to raise a space startup. I would like to ask Mike first. Could you tell us a little bit about what AWS is doing on the space and on the space scene?
Yeah, of course. So we have a few different teams and a lot of people looking at space and helping develop the space ecosystem. And Stephen, I really appreciate that slide and the whole talk that you just gave because, like, I've been doing this for a couple of years now. I get really excited when I see that, and these are companies that I know and I work with. But like, you just summed up the reason why I think we're all so excited about space. So AWS, I'm on the public sector VC and startups team. Our job is to help VCs and startups who are working in the public sector, and my focus is space and national security. So I focus on both of those, and they often come together, as you mentioned. We also at AWS have the Aerospace and Satellite Solutions team. That's created about 2 years ago. It's led by a former Air Force Major General, Clint Crozier, who helped plan for and stand up Space Force. He's now leading that team. And we have about 500 years of space operations experience on the bench at that team. Folks like Tom Soderstrom, who is a CTO at JPL, Peter Marquez, who is our head of space policy, who wrote the last two space policies in 2010 and 2020 for the US government. And we are all about supporting the space customers. I created and launched and am running the AWS Space Accelerator. Happy to talk more about that. But really, it's all about making our space startups massively successful. And we have a lot of tools and resources to do that. And that's how Sydney and I got to know each other, and Stephen as well.
And Reza, hailing from DC, thanks so much for joining us on short notice. We really appreciate your availability. And from the Exim Bank, can you tell us about your work with the space startups?
Of course, and thank you, Sydney, and the Settler Capital team for giving me the opportunity to join this STEAM group of reps. And by the way, congratulations on your first annual meeting. So as you noted, Reza Nikfarjam, I'm the industry rep for the global tech sector at the Export-Import Bank, also known as Exim or Exim Bank. So Exim is an 88-year-old independent federal agency of the U.S., and with the primary mission of supporting creation of jobs here in the United States by facilitating export sales. This facilitation is in the form of trade finance and insurance products. And we have a host of products that, some directly assist U.S. exporters, and some of them actually help their international customers be able to buy U.S. goods and capitalize the cost of that purchase using term loans. And this also includes space systems, anything from satellite systems, launch services, ground segment, launch insurance, and newer applications of space, including Earth observation and others.
Excellent, Reza. And if we understand correctly, like you guys tend to work more at later stage companies, right? Can you give us some examples of companies that you have supported recently?
That's right. Yeah. So just for reference, the bank has been at the forefront of supporting the space sector almost from its inception. We started with financing the Intelsat ground stations for various countries. The first orbiting satellite that we financed was for the government of Indonesia back in the 70s. We were instrumental in helping SpaceX export their Falcon 9 from their early days back in early 2010s. Just in the last decade, we supported $5 billion of satellite systems and space systems exports, mostly in the geo. Now, it's a very exciting time in the industry with the proliferation of low Earth orbit and emergence of the commercial NGSO applications since 2015. We've been following the industry. Some of these companies that we first spoke with grew from a team of 5 to now, $1 billion market cap just under 7 years. So, we do get in touch with earlier stage companies as well, just to, kind of help them. But I'll, I can shed more light on what type of companies that we can support.
Absolutely. And Mike, you guys work with more earlier stage companies, so we see that these approaches are complementary. Same question for you. Can you give us some examples of things that you've done, and more specifically, with which companies you've worked with?
Yeah, so for us, for what it's worth, a startup is anyone pre-exit. So really, if it's two founders in a garage, all the way up to, I mean, we've worked with Series C, D, and beyond. Our sweet spot tends to be around seed, Series A and B, because that's where I think we can, do the most good and add the most value. But really, we're having conversations all over the spectrum. I'm just going to think to something very recent. You mentioned Lunar Outpost. They were in our first Space Accelerator cohort. I was with Justin at South by Southwest this last week, and still having great conversations and helping them in any way that we can. But also recently, I've been working with a lot of AWS startups on support to Ukraine, for example. So companies like Capella, ICEYE, BlackSky, Satellogic, Ursa Space are all companies that we've been involved with that are doing incredible things right now. And it's all like, whether it's working on a humanitarian issue, putting our startups together with government customers like the Ukraine in this case, or helping out decide which term sheet to accept, that we're working with startups on all fronts.
And we're curious, Mike, why is Amazon so interested in space, apart from the fact that the CEO is the owner of a space company?
Yeah, so I should say, Blue Origin is totally unrelated to Amazon, but for the fact that they both have Jeff Bezos in common. Obviously we're developing the Kuiper constellation. That's also very far removed from what I do at AWS. Everything that we do is working backwards from a customer. So we saw that there were a lot of AWS applications with space customers across the spectrum. And the way we were organized, we didn't have a common space team to support them all with space expertise. So we created one, and space is inherently a data intensive market, and that's someplace where cloud computing can do a lot of good. I'm sure you all know the stats, maybe 11,000 satellites in space in the last, since we started in human history, with another 50 to 100,000 in the next decade plus. So that's a lot of data that needs to be processed, and we're here for that.
Excellent. Steven, can you share with us your perspective on how the space ecosystem has changed over time, and if you're excited about what you're seeing right now?
Oh, absolutely. When did strategy for NASA back in the 2006 timeframe, and we were looking back then about how NASA would shift with the growing space economy. Back then in 2006, Elon Musk still wasn't successful, still blowing up rockets. People had heard rumors of Jeff Bezos and Blue Origin. But it's been interesting over the last 15, 16 years to see how NASA has helped to seed commercial space. Of course, with this commercial crew and cargo program, it was able to help to support SpaceX and be able to create opportunities for other companies. With the commercial lunar payload system, it also is doing things to be able to encourage the growth of the lunar ecosystem. So NASA has played a role in that, but the real growth from that and what NASA was looking for is the investments from the private side. And so it is looking for the opportunities to seed, but it needs organizations like Seldor and other venture communities to be able to support the growth, because NASA cannot put all the investment into it. It will continue to support new technology development through small business innovative research, small business technology transfer. It does things to support, like Semvita did with its NASA iTech program, but it is up to the private industry to actually enable the growth of this new ecosystem.
So we see that also as well, because historically the type of companies that we've supported were your prime defense contractors, right? And then the landscape is shifting very fast with the with the emergence of the LEO constellation and small players both on the launch side and on the manufacturing side. So we see a lot of new private players coming to EXIM Bank seeking financing either for themselves or if there is some sort of manufacturer or service provider for their international customers. And we have products that would address the needs of both groups.